It's a real privilege that we can be with you again. And we say thanks to God that you're alive, that you can be with us all across this beautiful land of Guyana, in the Caribbean border field, wherever you receive us. We ask that you play your part today by inviting a friend, inviting a neighbor. Let them know how blessed this program is to you and your family, and share the joy with them. We welcome you, and we say thanks for joining us. God bless you. Stay tuned.
This evening we want to continue examining the importance of parenting. Getting a child is a biological function, but parenting goes beyond biology. Parenting is bigger, and when we look around society, even in our own society, sometimes we get the feeling that we are very much lacking in this respect. And so the roles of the family and the church, those organizations that are useful in our community, helpful, those organizations become very critical in terms of us addressing some of the issues and problems that we see in our society regarding parenting. And Deuteronomy 6, offers tremendous advice as to how we should handle this particular process. Children must be taught diligently as we attempt to impart values. This must be done consistently and deliberately. Values of honesty, for example, values of justice, values of hard work, values of love and mercy. And therefore, we need to concentrate on that. And this can be done how? There's always a methodology in how we do things. And we could impart when we lie down, when we get up in the mornings, at the table when we eat, when we walk, when we talk. And if we consistently do these things, at some point in time, those values will catch on, and we definitely will see a reduction in the kind of problems that we have in our society. Gentlemen.
This is such a bothersome issue, but it's necessary for us to address this issue and issues associated with it. The whole question of renewing our duty to the noble task of parenting. We just heard the moderator stress the fact that parenting is not exclusively a biological function. There are prescribed roles, duties, responsibilities. I said to a young lady as I was leaving a building overseas, I saw her and I played with the baby, and then I looked at the young woman who was holding this child, and I said, "But is this your baby?" And she said, "Yes." And I looked at her and I said to her, "But you are a baby yourself." Someone shouted from the crowd, "Yes, she's 16. I was kind of polarized for a moment, and I thought quickly, a child is raising a child. As I examined further, someone again who obviously knows the family posited, she doesn't even wake up in the night to take care of the baby when the baby's hungry. And I thought to myself, that stands to reason. She's a child. She needs somebody to wake her up too. These are the problems that we have. And those things are not going to just go away like that. So there must be some intentionality here in teaching. This is a grave task. And if we allow children to raise children unsupervised, without structure, without authority, without any modicum, without being exposed to any modicum of principles and values and virtues, could you imagine what they'll be raising? And that's why we are lamenting, and it really is a lament, when Moses wrote this counsel, when he posited these words that I'm giving you today, and you must keep these words in your heart in Deuteronomy 6, the children of Israel had a structure that everyone, especially parents, adhered to. And so the structure, it was easy for them to apply these principles. We're living in this 21st century. Everybody is busy. You now have the strange thing of women being left alone as soon as they become pregnant. Their family, they don't have a support system in their family. The burden, the economic burden is too great for that nuclear family. She's got to fend for herself and for the newborn. She may be in that pursuit of trying to get milk and bread and butter. She might become pregnant again because someone took advantage of her situation. And you have that multiplied to how many times? And so we have real challenges. We are not strangers to those realities. But notwithstanding those difficulties, there must be some parameter, some high water mark that we want to encourage all who are parents. Look towards this standard, look towards this high water mark, and then shoot your family, move your family in the direction of, let us see if we can achieve this. We are trying to put within our vision a standard that is quite achievable. And we are basing it from this word of God.
I think we will have to appeal to structure. The woman that you described, and as you look around, if we decide not to have a structure, then we are actually concluding that no, whatever happens, happens. But I don't think we can go in that direction, because our greatest asset is our children. And not investing in their life and future is like closing shop and say, let me die. So
the only trouble with that is that you're not going to die like that. Mm-hmm. You see, when a doctor makes a mistake with his patient, the patient dies or may suffer some irreparable damage. When parents and teachers, when they make a mistake with their children, they wouldn't just die. They live to torment all of us. Yeah. And so people have to understand parenting and this noble duty of teaching are necessary structures, and there must be solid bridges between both of them, because I'm sure both of them are looking out for the welfare of the child, and we cannot allow either structure to fail, parenting or children, except we are prepared to buy bigger guns, big tanks, war tanks, and all of us live in a war zone. I'm sure we're not thinking that. But if we just are lax and dismissive about raising, putting the time in, listen, parenting is hard work. You have to put the time in. You have to work the day shift and the night shift. You know? Not with a forklift, but you have to work. You have to work both shifts.
Not only so, you know, but as you parent, if you don't have a reference point as to what would have happened in your life, what can you give to that child that you're parenting? So I point us to where we all came from. God, our parent. He would have been the one that would have given to us the statutes, the laws, the commands. And He is expecting us to live according to these. And then he is saying to us, when you get offspring, when you produce after your kind, this is what should be done to them. Because in replenishing the earth with righteous seed and God-fearing people, it's less trouble that you would have to deal with. We have no need for the policemen, the lawyers. These people will not have the jobs that they have now if parenting is taken in the way that it should be done. And if that happens, society benefits because there's more assets that you bring to society in the case of the liabilities that we're producing now. So help us, parents, to do this by the standard that God has asked us to set. Sit, discuss, when you walk, when you lie, don't send them to parties and you go on to something else. Take some time and parent in the way that God expects.
We will still need those professionals. Yes. People will still have to decide how they will establish the boundaries for the lands that they have. And you may need the advice of an attorney if you die without, you die intestate. You know, the whole host of other functions other than the criminal, the whole civil thing. You have people who are disorderly. And we still need those professions, and we are really, this is a big one. You know, children love stories. Whether a child is born in the up end of the society or in the down end, the lower end of the society, children love stories. Whether a child is born with a silver spoon or gold spoon in his or her mouth, or born with a calabash, children love stories. And hear this advice. Listen, when your son asks in the future, sons, children in general, they ask a million questions.
Yes.
And I mean rapid fire. But parents are busy. Busy doing I don't know what. The writer conceptualized, you know, he perceived, he saw a situation, a scenario where there was a family and these children learn by repetition. They learn by you stating and restating and stating and restating. Spend time teaching. When your children ask, how did we reach where we are? Tell us something about where we came from. Parents have got to slow down and to answer that question. The structure was, they were told in Deuteronomy, tell them, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt. Don't be afraid of your past. A man's life, a woman's life is never determined by their past, but by their strength and their ability to understand the present and with the reality in Christ negotiate the future. So it's not your past that will sink you. Is whose hand you're holding as you negotiate the future.
You know, I remember having to deal with an issue with my eldest son. Well, my past came into the frame where he went to school and he heard that your father is a deportee. Your father went to prison. And when he heard this, he took offense to it and decided that the person that was telling him this, you don't deserve to tell me anything like that, so he choked the guy. But before he did that, I sat them down, I said, listen, you would have missed me for a couple of years. This is where I was, this was what happened, and I explained it to them. So when that happened at school, he had the information. He was just operating on, well, I really don't know how to address it, but he was operating on it. You can't tell me that about my parent. So he responded in such a manner. When I heard about it, I got home, I heard about it, I said to him, let's stop. Didn't I say to you X, Y, Z is the case? He said, yes, Dad. Did I tell you you will hear these things? He said, yes, Daddy. Did I say to you you should not respond in any violent manner? Yes, Daddy. So I said, what happened? He said, well, nobody isn't supposed to disrespect you. I said, I hear your point. But these are the things that we have to face. If I did not say that to him, and he would have found that out, he would have been questioning me again. Daddy, is my ear there? And then I could not have said to him truth anymore because he didn't hear it from me. Parents need to know that sometimes going out on a limb and saying where you came from is necessary in order to avoid a whole load of conflict in the future.
Life experiences are a powerful teaching tool, and if we could only be honest with ourselves and deal with them, it is amazing the kinds of lessons that the child will learn. I personally remember as a child seeing us being thrown out of family house, family home, and how my parents struggled and worked in those early days to build a family, to build a home. And they will always remind us, they will always say, this is where we came from. And don't get too excited because of what you now see, because this is where we have come from. And personally, that became a stimulus to me to be able to acquire, to be able to have, and to do more than that, but to help even those that you may find that might be struggling. So once we are able to identify the experiences we have gone through, they should become a teaching tool.
Some people might say, I am not a scholar. I haven't gone to some institution of higher learning. I'm not too bright, and therefore this is why I'm in this state of parenting. But as we heard earlier, there are different methodologies, and God has given us, that kind of wisdom and impetus to be effective as parents, regardless of, some of the problems that we might have as a person. You might not be able to write in a classical fashion, but you could certainly speak. And so, clearly coming out in Deuteronomy, it is said that you should speak to the child, talk to the child. So it's not only a question of reading and writing, but the element of speaking is so powerful. You could model, you could entertain questions and answers, because I'm sure as a human being there are things that and we heard about the experiences that we would have gone through. And so it is important that we share those experiences also, so that our children will not fall prey to the same kind of things, and then we say, man, this is a family issue, Sometimes you got to personally say, well, this happened to me, but it's not going to happen to my future generations. And therefore we could speak, we could model, we could entertain questions and answers. And there is no powerful lesson than an object lesson. The children of Israel, they had many object lessons. The writer of Deuteronomy said to bind these things on your foreheads, He talks about writing them on their door frames and their doorposts, these values that we want to see exhibiting. And if we consistently do that, we will see change.
We have to consistently, indeed, seek those methods that will work for our families. Parenting is hard work.
Yeah.
And we have to find the time, we have to make ourselves available to our children so that they can not only hear us, but they can see us in operation also. Dr. Myles Munroe, in his writings, has said, our children, I quote, our children are not going to be just our children. They are going to be other people's husbands and wives and parents of our grandchildren. So we have to train deep and wide. They are not just ours, but they are a responsibility given to us by God. And so we need to find the time, we need to work intentionally to ensure that those children do well.
Solomon, writing years after his father would have taught him, says a lot. His father spent time teaching him these principles. And I want you to know that as you teach these principles, they don't go away from you like that. They're there, and you can always go back to them. Solomon remembers his father taught him as a boy, a young boy in the house, tender in his house. And the father was there teaching the principles of God. And so even though he would have stepped out at times, he's reminded of the best thing to do was to serve God and to keep His commandments because of the principles that were taught to him. It is so important for us as parents to teach and to train and to model. It is not just being the daddy in the home, but it's more than that, playing active parts in our children's life. You know, I met this young man from the hospital yesterday. He was coming home with his baby and the mother, and I asked him if he's the father, and he said yes. And I encouraged him that you should not only just be the daddy bringing the money home, but you should be the daddy that plays an active part in your child's life. And then I asked him, are you married to the mom? And he says, no, we are waiting on time. We find it so necessary to produce children, but we don't find it necessary to have these children in a secure environment where the parents, husband and wife, are able to train these children up. So he's just satisfied with being a child father, not being a resident parent in the home. This is something that is so necessary. If we don't know, we must put ourselves in position to be taught how to do these things, and God will help us.
Children have a better. The young lady say a baby daddy.
Yes.
You know, he's not a child father, he's a baby daddy. But I remember my growing up years, raised by a domestic. My mother raised not just me, but she raised my other brothers and a sister. She raised two of my cousins, two of her nephews. And we were raised. She was a strong woman. She ensured that we went to about 4 Sunday schools. And in order to go to matinee Saturday, you had to pre-qualify by going to Sunday school. It's amazing how those parents understood the importance, the nexus between the family and the church. And I met a 27-year-old woman who is still a virgin. She told me that. And she said, the reason I'm still a virgin, and she's several months away from marriage, the reason I'm still a virgin, I remember, she said, I went to Sunday school and the teacher spoke about this thing. And she said, this thing, you should keep it for your husband. And she said, this is the young lady telling me, that Sunday school teacher made an impact upon my life. And even though at 18 I tried to negotiate away this thing, it didn't work. So here I am at 27, intact, all because of that collaboration between the family, the home, and the Sunday school. Not only that, I was raised not just by my mom, but then Miss Hall, Miss Peyton, Auntie Nid, who was kind of Portuguese, married to Uncle Das. All of them watched out, and a whole other, you know, when you were walking the road, therefore, mommy being away for the waking hours, you were conscious that there were other people, parents, watching over your life. Why? They wanted to celebrate. When I passed my O-levels, my mother came to the landing and shouted out to the neighborhood and held the certificate, no, the result, the slip, held it in the air, and the neighborhood clapped. All those mothers came out and clapped. Listen, I think she, like my mother, their mothers who are struggling today, I want to encourage you, raise your children in the fear of God.
The notion of inheritance is a very powerful one. It's important that we, as parents, strive to leave an inheritance for our children. As a matter of fact, the Word of God says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. But what is even more critical is leaving a heritage. I believe everybody has that responsibility to leave a heritage within. It's not just about things or what you could produce. You may not even have it. but you could leave something deep within your children, you know. And when you look at Deuteronomy chapter 6, reading from verse 7, it says, impress them on your children, talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your forehead. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. When we talk about that, I mean that's really intentional. You may not have a lot of things, but at least you could put some stuff within them. That's the heritage that we're talking
I believe that we have established so far that we should be strong parents. We made a case for parents to be strong. And I want to further reiterate that we should use one scripture I want to recommend. Of course, the whole Bible is available, but there's a scripture in Daniel that says, the people that know their God shall be strong and do exploits. I would like to see parents doing exploits by ensuring that their children make full use of the opportunities that are afforded them. That is doing exploit. So there must be camaraderie and discussion and fellowship in the home towards this end. So begin to recognize what is happening around us. See how our children are going away. It is unnatural. We like to see it as unnatural, where parents have to be burying children.
Yes, yes.
That is not the natural way.
Right.
So we have to make this conscious effort of putting in the work and giving careful directions to our children so they may have full benefits of their lives.
Children are humans, valuable, precious. They have come prepackaged, written on their DNA. The future, their future, is inextricably bound up with the purpose of God for their lives and for their communities, their families, their nation. Whether they are born in poverty or born in prosperity, parents, you and I are duty bound to raise them so that they can fulfill their destiny. God hasn't made a mistake yet, and we challenge you to raise your children. I'd like to amend that. He's never made a mistake. And your child is not one. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
We thank you for being part of Choices. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly for any of our regular weekly services. I am Celestia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.